Hey, this is Thomas and today I have for you the Audi Q4 e-tron mid-size electric SUV. This platform, by the way, is shared by the VW ID.4 and the Skoda Enyaq. They have some similarities, but they're also quite different, and this one is very interesting, I can promise. And also to come later in this review, SUV versus the Sportback version, design exterior, functionality interior, and also the driving part, rear-wheel drive versus all-wheel drive. So we start with everything you need to know. In the front, a closed grille right here, and also in the lower part there's a little bit of cooling, but it's adaptive on the inside. Pretty interesting. Then the Audi rings are two-dimensional because they hide the sensors behind it for adaptive cruise control and so on. Front view camera is possible. Navara blue is the color for today, but there are of course other color choices available. And interesting is optional matrix LED lamps. We also have them right here, and the daytime running light signature can be changed from inside the vehicle, so you can already individualize your car electronically. So that journalists could film the daytime running light signatures from the outside. I practiced on the inside using 2 fingers, so you can confirm faster. Yes, daytime running light, action. Yeah. Hey, and we have cascading turning indicators. We also find them in the rears. Actually, even a safety feature, I think, because you can just better see when someone is turning. I know you love comparisons. Here you can see the S-Line on the Sportback. Of course, you can go with the S-Line, with the colors, front-wheel drive, all-wheel drive. Doesn't matter if SUV or Sportback, but to see the difference here, the S-Line here has this additional contrast right there. And also in the front grille, you can see here these chrome-like accentuations, whereas here it's more subtle. So, normal design or S-Line, what's your pick? And by the way, colors, Navara blue and here the Giza blue. This is here 4.59 meters or 181 inches for the length, and the wheels go from 19 to 21 inch. These here, golden middle, 20 inch. I think pretty cool look. Here we have painted wheel arches, but you can also get in a crossover style, for example, in painted black or so, depending on the trim level. I think the side profile, definitely very interesting, rather upright here for the SUV building style, and an interesting design line right here. You can also get the Sportback version, which is a cut-off version, a little bit more aerodynamic styling right here in this SUV coupe shape, and also a little bit better as for the wind efficiency, but it's more about the styling. Also, when we come to the interior later, not too much difference. Really about the styling, SUV or SUV coupe, which one would you actually pick? Technology-wise, very interesting that this is rear-wheel driven, the platform and the car. Also the very one we have here today, when we can pick all-wheel drive or rear-wheel drive, I rather tend to pick the rear-wheel drive models, because of the racing, And 40 e-tron is the name of the rear-wheel drive model. Before it gets out here, light strip all the way across the vehicle. Cool design feature. So this version here, 200 horsepower, rear-wheel drive, 8.5 seconds in the acceleration figure, or you can go all-wheel drive model, 1 electric motor in the rear, 1 in the front, around 300 horsepower and 6 seconds the acceleration figure, so definitely quicker. But this one has the advantage of a smaller turning circle, and also you get out of the corners a little bit quicker. Battery sizes, either a small one, 52 kilowatt hours net, or this one here today, 77 kilowatt hours net, and then a projected range around about 400 kilometers or 250 miles. You will need that. So, rear-wheel drive and big battery, that's my tip for today, and that's exactly the car I have for you. Well, I prefer the rear-wheel driven version, not only because you come a little bit sporty out of the corners, but also due to the smaller turning circle. 10.2 meters, the smallest of an Audi vehicle ever, smaller than with the Audi A1. And you can literally also see that. Disc brakes in the front and drum brakes in the rear. Same for the Enyaq and also the ID.4. And you might think, oh, well, it's 2021, drum brakes in the rear. What's that? Cost saving and so on. Well, it also has an advantage because there's then less corrosion for the disc brakes. The electric vehicles hardly ever use the rear brakes because of the recuperation. So I think actually it's a clever choice to go for drum brakes in the rear. Here now, the comparison SUV versus the Sportback. You can see here the roofline is falling right there. More central, sportier. I think it's really well done. So at first I was thinking, more SUV, but the more I see the Sportback, yeah, I really fall in love with the coupe design right here. So yeah, really cool as for this really agile form. Audi expects 2/3 of SUV sales, 1/3 of Sportback sales. But the question is, which one would you go for? And the rear comparison, SUV, Sportback, once again, split here with the wing, and then there's glass underneath, glass above. Yeah, just a sporty look once again for the Sportback and the SUV. I'm really looking forward to your feedback. Which do you find more beautiful? Usually I would tend to the SUV version, but here for the Q4 e-tron, I think I would meanwhile go with the Sportback. Sadly, there is no frunk. I know electric vehicle lovers love their frunks. You don't have anyone here, but it's also built in Germany, by the way, in that Zwickau plant, just where the ID.4 is being built. And recharging, 11 kilowatt AC for the bigger battery and 125 kilowatt DC. Not too much actually. And the smaller battery, but not too many people will go for the smaller battery. It's even a little bit slower in the figures. Just to mention, there will also be an entry-level version, by the way, with 170 horsepower for the small battery version. And standard suspension will just be a normal one. And then option you can go for sport suspension or, which we have today, the adaptive suspension, which is giving you the best comfort and also more variety between sportiness and rather soft feeling. Now, towards the interior, there's the key. Simple, straightforward, nice. Then, door closing sound. Top notch, like that. And inside of the doors is somewhat just soft on the top part, not too soft, not entirely hard. And this is then entirely hard, and this again soft. So not too happy with the inside of the doors. That could be better. But here the door handles, they're actually quite cool. And also the buttons we have here, click, click. Nice clicking sounds. And the bottles here, top part and lower part. So 2 spaces for bottles, for water bottles. That's actually quite nice. In the interior right here, this new steering wheel, there's also a different one available, but this one is the shiny steering wheel because it has these flat ends, and it's really good to grab it also here on the top part when you are in a like sharp corner or something in the city. So it's really nice visually and also to handle it. However, here not too happy with the 2D Audi rings. It is some part is real metal in there, but it's it's just 2-dimensional, and I like it when it's 3-dimensional. Then look at that. The capacitive buttons on the steering wheel. You can slide or click. Also has good clicking sound, and 4 capacitive solutions. It's cool, but again, single individual buttons were just better. Everyone agrees to that. Don't you as well? Then seats, either normal seat or a sport seat, and different services available. There are 2 different fabric seats available if you want to keep it animal free. Here, this is the mainly leatherette seat, so mainly animal free, but just here, the inside bolsters here on the lower part, this is then from animal origin, so not quite consistent. The same with the Dynamica seat. Dynamica then on the inside, so a microfiber material, and then just the outside bolsters, some animal parts. At least they're moving in the right direction, even if they're not as consistent as, for example, Tesla or also the ID.4, from Volkswagen, the sibling here, is a little bit more consistent in these choices. And what else is good? They use recycling share, already here, for example, also with the microfiber seat, and even more so in the fabric seat. So they're also putting more recycling share and also more renewable energy production, for example, in the plant where this car is being produced. So steering wheel here, up and down, in and out. That's good. The Audi virtual cockpit here in this vehicle is smaller, you can see, than we used to know. Yeah, I mean, it looks cool, but we just know the 12.3 inch, which is a little bit wider. That makes a better impression. But at least this one here, I think is way cooler than the one we see in the ID.4, this really tiny thing, And we'll soon also have a head-up display special, which is quite impressive. Seat ergonomics is actually decent. Electric control, and you have a good upright seating position, some SUV feeling, not as high as you might know from an Audi Q5. This one then rather goes like SUV crossover direction seating wise, I think. Of course, you can put the seat a little bit higher. Best seating comfort will be with the fabric seats because it adapts to the body a little bit better. But overall, interesting seating position, really long here from the front hood, rather panoramic atmosphere, but definitely you feel at home here. And to me, the most important thing is you have one very crucial difference to the ID4 coming up right now. And here we are with the interior overview. Left side, these 10.25-inch instruments, talked about them. On the right side, either 10.1 or this one here, 11.6. This is the bigger one. And we know this basic manual structure like this, so rather keep it with that. That's also easy. We know it from Audi, and then you can control everything here. For example, the car function, lights and vision. That's where I actually picked the exterior lighting, and here with the digital light signature. That was quite funny, definitely. Then the GPS also has a satellite view if you like, and we're in the northern part of Germany at the moment, at the German Baltic Sea. That's a very beautiful area. Just too bad it's really cold and sometimes rainy today, but beautiful here also with the whole GPS. And you see the software is also with the CPU in the background. It's fast enough. That's definitely better also than with the ID4. And optional Sonos sound system. First time they work together with Sonos, and wow, the sound is superb, really amazing. Great depth of the sound. I can just recommend it, really cool. My favorite feature for today here, this matte wood insert. Just listen to this. Beautiful, and it doesn't collect any fingerprints. And it always feels kind of warm, maybe also because of the heat of the infotainment system. So on cold days, yeah, that's awesome. Then, now my favorite feature in comparison to the ID4, climate control. First of all, click, 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 Audi sound design for clicking buttons, and you can still manual control it while driving. That's so much easier than all the capacitive BS. Really good to have that here. That would be my number one reason to go for this one, not for the ID4 or the Skoda Enyaq. Then drive select in the lower part. This is not that easy to reach, but I can already tell you from driving, it doesn't have the biggest effect on driving, so rather leave it on the auto mode, and then you don't need that button anyway. This is here for the passenger to swipe the volume. Yeah, don't tell your passenger, just do it from your steering wheel. And then here with the drive selector, drive mode, B mode for more recuperation, also easily switched it. And here more space like a flying console, 2 USB-C choices, and the smartphone can also go for Apple CarPlay and out in a wireless way, but I tend to keep it with the cable, old school yo. Then adaptive cup holders, it's also good from build quality. And then we have this armrest right here, well attached. Can pull it longer and also more space underneath. And here in the optional head-up display you get a lot of information, current speed, allowed speed, and also here when you should lift your foot off the throttle already, for example, because here the roundabout is about to come. And of course, one of the best things it has to offer is actually the augmented reality function. And there you see them now. They are the arrows, and here, so the top part, the arrow shows me directly the first exit of the roundabout. Here we go. By the way, if you have the smaller 10.1-inch screen here, you just have bigger bezels. The screen is a little bit smaller then. However, same CPU, same software, just the screen size differs. Yeah, that's just Audi extra price policy. And this screen, the biggest one, is only available a couple of months after sales start of this vehicle. Time code, Thomas in the back seat. Check it out. Here, some soft touch right there, but once again, hard pack here at these doors. Yeah, but at least some Sonos speakers if you have that option. So you already can see a lot of space in the rear still. It's not the longest vehicle, but since it's the EV platform, no middle tunnel also, and a lot of space on the back seats. It's making actually a quite good impression. And legroom here when I'm driving with 186 or 6.1, sufficient headroom both front and the rear, and also legroom. So very well used this space here, and also quite comfortable to sit here. It's actually good. Also in the middle part, 2 USB-C chargers, 12-volt power supply, and a climate control. And once again, by the way, so this is mainly leather red, so animal free, and you can see here it's really soft, feels very good. You could not tell the difference right here. more features. Adaptive cup holders, that's good build quality, definitely. And then we can already fold the seats from here if you like. So is there any difference in headroom, SUV versus coupe? Let's check it out. Yeah, a little bit. So I have to now like squeeze my hand a little bit in. Yes. Yeah, indeed. So it was like this versus this approximately. So yeah, I mean it works still with 1m86 or 6'1". You can easily sit with tall adults. You're also in the rear of the coupe version of the Sportback. Yeah, just a little compromise, but once again, not much of a compromise. You can easily go for the Sportback for the coupe if you like the design better. And now the trunks, because we have both SUV and coupe directly next to each other, around 500 to 1,500 liters in the capacity. The coupe even has a little bit more, but you can hardly see a difference. And the good thing is, here usually the coupes are a little bit, smaller right here in this dimension, but it's not the case right here. You can see it's high enough. And when you directly switch here, coupe to the SUV, I mean, don't really see a big difference. Backpack, maybe pushing a little bit inside, and that's it. There's also this, nice net right here. You can secure things, and underneath there's a storage for your charging cable. And to fold the seats, you have to go around, and then you can also load the thing through. Yeah, just around the 1m80 then in the total length. But definitely, if you go for the SUV or the coupe, it's not design versus practicability. It's just design versus design. Woo! 0 to 60 kilometers an hour. Uphill, while raining, full throttle. Really great traction, so it was a very good acceleration test. The rear-wheel drive only model here, more than enough power. So again, considering it was an uphill acceleration, very well done. And now when we're getting on the motorway, 80 to 120 kilometers an hour, so that's a good acceleration progress. Plop, here we go. So that's again reasonable. Around 8 seconds is the official acceleration figure, and 6 seconds something the all-wheel drive version. So it's 200 versus 300 horsepower. But here I really have to say, this horsepower output is actually enough. And I think it's still the best combination. Big battery, but the rear-wheel drive only version has the advantage. You have a more narrow turning circle. So the turning circle of this vehicle at 10.2 meters, that's a smaller turning circle than the Audi A1, the smallest turning circle in the Audi lineup. Definitely very interesting. And also very good here that it's raining at the moment. Not that it's pleasant outside, but we can even better test, the NVH. So what's the noise level and so on. Yeah, limited visibility. Thank you so much, Q4 e-tron. I didn't see it was limited visibility. Yeah, about that. So what my point is, noise insulation, superb. It's very silent in here, although it's raining cats and dogs outside. Yeah, we'll get a little bit lighter now here though. And also the rolling from the tires and so on, super silent in here. At the same time, steering, very precise, very sporty here with the flat top and bottom. So it feels very sporty. At the same time, it's a comfortable drive. You have a more or less upright seating position. So the ergonomics of the seats, also very good. So I'm really feeling at home here on the motorway, and I've driven to this test drive here in the Audi RS Q8, which is of course segment bigger, and that also offers good comfort, of course. But here, it's not that I would feel so much less comfort, although it's a little bit smaller, more in this mid-size segment here. So really, really happy that we have comfort, at the same time good sporty driving feelings. And it's good that the electric motors, the torque is instantaneously, it's directly there, and therefore it's still also suitable for the motorway journeys. If you want more power, then go for the all-wheel drive version, but for most cases this one here will also be just fine. And yeah, I really have to say I feel one with the vehicle. Some kind of traveling feeling because it's really long to the front windshield. That's great, creating definitely some traveling van style feel, so to speak. But again, due to the low center of gravity, batteries placed in the center of the vehicle, it feels very, very sporty. So on the outside, typical midsize SUV style, okay, the Sportback looks a little bit sportier, but definitely once again, it drives sportier than it actually looks, and that's a lot of fun and still safe traveling here also in the rain. And that's only rear driven. It's actually no problem as long as you keep all the stability systems in place. It's no problem at all. And then, I mean that, you know, you can leave it in the auto mode. You can go efficiency, comfort, and dynamic in dynamic mode, for example. You have a little bit more throttle input, steering and so on. Everything reacts a little bit differently, but it doesn't make the biggest difference. So let's see, we drop a little bit speed in dynamic mode. Okay. And then let's see, comfort mode. It went back to the auto again, right? So wait a minute, comfort mode. Okay, got that. Now dynamic mode. Let's see the difference. Jonas? Not too much, right? Yeah, so that's probably more than with the petrol engines in general, because in the dynamic modes, they're going in a lower gear, for example. Some electric vehicles also vary the horsepower output over these driving modes, but here it didn't make a big difference, at least when we are already at speed. Might be a little bit different than when we start just from the get-go. As for the energy consumption, of course we have the acceleration included now, but a good average is some 17 kilowatt hours on 100 kilometers or 27 kilowatt hours on 100 miles. So that again confirms my prediction of around 400 kilometers or 250 miles of electric range. There's no other range for this vehicle here. And I think that's still quite reasonable, but also shows you have to go with the biggest battery with this vehicle. Otherwise the range will, for a lot of use cases, be not enough. But as a traveling vehicle here, it's really very well done. Comparing it to the VW ID4, it definitely feels more premium, as we talked about in the interior. You know, I just love this matte wood area here we have in this trim. It also feels a little bit more sophisticated while driving. It feels to me also a little bit sportier. So you can of course go like from the S-Line always and so on. And here when you have the adaptive suspension, we have here the dynamic or adaptive suspension has the possibility to do it a little bit stiffer then, or a little bit softer once again. But the general setup of this vehicle to me feels a little bit sportier than the ID4 without giving you less comfort or something. So I think just steering setup, suspension, the whole handling dynamic is really perfect. So they really nailed it here with this vehicle. And as I said, also the noise insulation, very, very cool. And when we're getting, once again, limited visibility, well, now it's actually better, definitely, right? Whee! Yeah, one more thing. First of all, once again, driving dynamics, also just from startup, really cool, so much fun. Didn't expect this vehicle to be so much fun. That's really cool. And about recuperation, that part was missing. So either in the normal D mode, the car is just rolling here, down and then I can also switch to the B mode. Then I'm not doing anything more recuperation, and I would recommend using the B mode. Just fits more to the electric vehicles, and also in the moment you switch from the throttle to the brake pedal, before you would do that, you lift your foot off the throttle and there's already deceleration happening. So I think it's also a matter of safety, and you just get used to it when driving electric vehicles. It's not that they would set it on the strongest recuperation ever. So they rather have this rolling philosophy, and they want then customers to use recuperation by using the brake pedal. You can argue pro and con for that. I'm more a fan of harder recuperation when you lift the throttle. Then as soon as you get used to the one pedal driving feeling, you just, feel happy with that. But here they rather want, let's say, existing Audi customers not to feel irritated too much, to transition to the electric vehicles and rather say you drive it more a little bit with the brake pedal, you know. So yeah, what do you think about that actually? And you can also change the recuperation here with the brake pedals when you are, you know, in the D mode. Then you can go a little bit higher or a little bit lower, so that's possible as well. And now comparison with the all-wheel drive model, 300 horsepower, fast acceleration. Let's see how it goes. Whee! That was 0 to 80 kilometers an hour, pretty quick, and definitely you feel you just have more punch here with the all-wheel drive model. Yeah, but you also realize that the turning circle is a little bit wider. This is the rear view camera here, by the way. Very good to have that, of course. In the US models, it's always standard because of the regulations. In Europe, you have to pay extra. But here, yeah, definitely feel the rear wheel drive model is, yeah, a little bit lighter to control. Definitely when you have narrow turning circle and so on. Yeah, but you just have more punch, definitely here also in the dynamic mode. That's definitely cool. So acceleration-wise, when you hit the throttle, definitely more sportiness from the all-wheel drive model. But then when getting out of the corners and so on, the rear-wheel drive model somehow just feels more purist, you know? In any case, the steering is super direct and precise. Really love that. Even more so sporty response in the dynamic mode. So you really have to think about, of course, how much money are you willing to invest. The 300 horsepower version is just a little bit more cost intensive. Yeah, I mean, here now 70 to 100. That's it. There's so much more coming from the acceleration. So this is a huge difference. If acceleration is important for you, then you should pick the dual motor. If price is more important to you and you know, you want to have a little bit more sporty driving fun out of the corners, then the rear-wheel drive model is the one for you. And top speed difference, 160 kilometers an hour versus here 180 kilometers an hour. So it's a difference of 100 miles per hour to 112 miles per hour. Yeah, that's probably also a German Autobahn thing then. And of course, compare the VW ID4, the sibling of this vehicle here, and also the Skoda Enyaq. So they are both, you know, somewhat using the same platform. A lot of things are the same, but also important differences. Here, about 3,000 euros extra if you compare this vehicle here to the ID4 in the same spec. It's also very interesting. Which one would you actually go for?